Well, thanks so much for having me on, taking the first one of the year. So make sure I get us off in the right manner. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. And you can all you can all see my screen. So you should just have the Recruitment Marketing Collective main screen up in front of you. So like Luke said, we've got loads to get through. So without delaying any more, here we go. So I get asked all the time. It's the main thing that we do. Steph, we need more client leads. You know, if we get the client leads, the recruiters they'll fill them, but we just never seem to have enough coming through the door. And I'm like, okay, great. When you say client, who do you actually mean? So the importance of audience and persona mapping is honestly up there, and I always start here because it's the first thing that people sort of skip into and go, oh, the clients, the businesses, and people, yes, we know you work with businesses, and often businesses in multiple sectors, in multiple verticals, and across that you will have multiple different personas. So I've pulled out obviously the top 4 here. You've clearly got your hiring managers. Some people deal predominantly with HR. Some deal with TA. So especially if you're in bigger organizations, if you go after bigger businesses, they quite often have HR, but then they have their own dedicated TA teams that you might be supporting. And in smaller businesses, or certainly at senior level, you're actually dealing with MD, C-suite level as your sort of key decision makers. Now, these vary by industry, by business size, and by function, but you need to know exactly who you're dealing with, because that's the only way you can figure out what motivates them. You need to know exactly what they care about and why they want to hear from you. And more importantly than all of that, where are they? Your hiring managers are not going to be in the same place as your MD, C-suite. You know, I look at Venn as an example. I'm a hiring manager, but Brian, who's our CEO, is also involved in the hiring process because he takes a very hands-on approach. And then we have Fiona, who's our office manager, and she deals a lot with sort of partnering us with recruitment agencies. So just for businesses that partner with us alone, there's 3 of those audience personas, all with different wants, all with different needs and drivers. And somehow we've got to try and pick out who is the influencer in that decision and who is the core decision maker. So if all of this is sounding a little bit alien, you're like, oh God, I've never even looked at my audience personas, please take the time to dig deeper. Meg, I think you're going to drop a link in the chat because we've actually got some guidelines on how to do this, and I think there might even be some templates for you to get started. So thank you, Meg, if you could drop those in. So like I say, you need to look at the needs and wants for each tier of the audience, then map out the overlaps in value and try and join them together, because trying to run all these different campaigns at different audiences at different times in different places gets really overwhelming. So look for the common themes, and that's kind of where you want to start your search. I mentioned before about decision makers versus influencers, so I want to touch a little bit on influencer marketing, and I'm not talking Molly May. Quite often your hiring managers, or even sometimes a little bit more junior than that, they have a huge swing in what that final outcome is. Trying to access Brian is nigh on impossible, and I work with them every day, but trying to access business leaders, the C-suite, even HR and TA to a certain degree, you know, TA, they're so focused with getting bums on seats, trying to get in with them sometimes when they're so busy can be difficult. So again, you need to look at who has who makes the final decision, but also who has that swing and who is going to have that say in the partner of choice. If you can get in with those influencers, they will handle the decision makers for you. But they can only handle the decision makers if you arm them with the right tools to make a business case. So again, just think about that when you're talking to your audiences. If you are going after these hiring managers, they might need that support in making a case. You need to arm them with all the tools, all the information, all the content that they need to be able to take that to a decision maker and say, look, I've built my business case. This is the partner I want to go with. How do I put this in motion? And if you get their buy-in all the way through, that they will handle the decision makers for you. And I guess in that vein, we want to talk about sort of where they are and how we get to them. But taking this hiring manager as an example, before you go, you rush to spend money on PPC or LinkedIn or anything like that, which we will come on to, but before you look to spend money on new audiences, don't forget your existing database and don't forget about candidates after you place them. You will have potential client leads sat in your candidate pool right under your nose, especially if your recruiting is a mid-senior level. I don't know if we've got her on the call, but Amy at Sphere is one of our clients. They work in digital marketing, so the marketing manager that they may place, they might need an exec as they start to build out their team. What are their goals, ambitions? What are their hiring plans? The graduate that you placed 4 or 5 years ago, they will have progressed in their career, hopefully, if they were talented enough. They will have progressed in their career. Where are they now? Are they looking to build out a team? If you've given them a great candidate experience, they should be evangelists and advocates for your business. So why would they not then choose you to bring in their team and build their team underneath? So yeah, before you start looking at other audiences, take a look at your client base. And again, especially if you're at a senior to exec level, those decision makers will travel to multiple businesses and can take you anywhere with them. So that would be my number one tip that people forget about, is look at your candidate pool and fish out those hiring managers, those sort of influencers in there. The other benefit that they have is that you can build lookalike audiences for them. So if you want to target hiring managers, again, as an example, route through your candidate pool and pull out everybody that fits that bracket. And you can then take all those email addresses, feed them into any of the platforms. So Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. There's basically every channel available has some form of lookalike audience, matched audience. They're kind of all called something similar. They will feed in that data and be able to find you more hiring managers. And then you can target them again with different messaging. So I mentioned then about messaging. So how do we get from all these 4 audiences to a campaign to messaging? I've got kind of a framework that I always use. You want to look at a theme. So look at a theme that's going on in the industry that's relevant. You then want to look at the needs versus wants of each persona. You need to map your proposition, your business value proposition, and your specific service offering to those needs and wants. You then need to apply that to a relevant industry, into a relevant role, dig into the pain points of those roles, and off the back of that, form your messaging. That was a lot. We will share these slides afterwards and some speaker notes, so that will be written down for you somewhere. But when you start to break it down like that, it just makes it way, way, way easier and more bite-sized chunks. So when you've got your messaging, that's where we start talking about content, which I'm going to come on to now. So once we picked a persona, you then need to look at all the stages of the funnel, because you need content at every stage. You need to think about, what do they need at each step? Do you have it? Where is it? How are you communicating it? And how can they find it? Everything from research and awareness, how do they discover you, to they put you in the consideration and comparison phase. And make no mistake, they will have your website like for like up against your competitors as they're kind of comparing and contrasting and figuring out who they should go with. Conversion, action. What are you doing to persuade an action? If your only call to action is speak to our team, speak to our team, speak to our team, you're assuming that they're ready to make a decision. You need to have something further up the funnel. We talk a lot about MQLs versus SQLs, and I'm going to take job descriptions as an example. A lot of the businesses that we work with and the clients that I speak to, when it comes to client attraction, nearly every client's like, oh, we want an upload a vacancy on our website, and I'm like, yeah, great, it's a great conversion point. But how many times does a client readily come to you with a perfect job spec that's absolutely finalized and is just ready to go? If you spoke to your sales team and your consultants, probably not that often. They usually need help, otherwise they would be doing it themselves, right? So job descriptions are a great way to offer an MQL. Have a template job description for the core roles that you fill, because if you've got somebody looking to download a job description, One, if you're a potential candidate, then you'll get some candidate gen through it, I'm sure. But equally, as a client, that's where you're going to start. You need to finalize your job spec because you're not going to approach an agency until you kind of know the role you want. So if you can get a job spec template up on your site and you get a potential client downloading that template, they're really early up the funnel. And if you've helped them get that job spec finalized, take that MQL, hand it over to a salesperson. Now, they've not actively said that they're recruiting, but they're clearly in the really early stages. And if you can get in there with them really early, help them get to that point, start adding value from right in that early stage of the funnel, there's going to be no question about the supplier that they're going to choose. So one other tip from me when it comes to looking at content and the funnel and thinking, oh, where do we start? Do not start at the top. Work from the bottom up. I always say there is no point in filling a leaky bucket. There is no point in putting loads of great stuff out LinkedIn, loads of stuff on paid if you're just going to lose them out all the way through. So start right at the bottom. And again, going back to our audiences, including the people on your database, nurture that loyalty first, then look at your site and your conversion points. What have you got? Then what's your proof? Where's your case studies? What can you say to back it up? Every single recruiter sits there and says, we're genuine experts in our field. Great, prove it. Get all that proof in there in that middle stage. Then go crazy, communicate it everywhere, shout it from the rooftops, because you're ready to kind of nurture people all the way through that funnel and get your conversions at the bottom. But again, take your audience persona framework that we mentioned before, those needs and wants, match them at every single stage for every persona. Now you're all like, Steph, that's a lot of work. So try not to get too overwhelmed by this next bit. But once you've narrowed down your audience and you've identified what they need, where you're going to find them, it's time to choose your content. Very important word in that last bit, choose. Before you go off creating loads of new stuff, take time to go back and look at what you have. That webinar you've done, that podcast you did ages ago, go back and listen to it. Take the notes, turn them into a slide deck, put that on LinkedIn, take the snippets off it, put it on social, take the audio off it, put it on Spotify. There's so much you can do. And we talk about this in terms of a hub and spoke approach. So your hub is your main theme. And then your spoke is all your supporting bits of content that all link together and all pull in the same direction as that one main theme. So this helps us squeeze out every little bit of value. Do not move on to the next theme or a new topic until you've exhausted every opportunity. So when we finished here, do me one favor, go back and audit what you already have using this. And I guarantee you that will form the basis of your content plan before you even need to start doing research and creating new ideas. Take this framework and go back and lay it over the stuff that you already have. I guarantee there'll be more you can do. So once you've exhausted all your opportunities and you've genuinely gone back and thought, right, okay, yeah, we have actually done loads, it is time to start planning and thinking about what more we can create and what is this distribution going to look like. And we always talk about the white noise on social media, trying to cut through the noise of LinkedIn. There's so much stuff out there. And that is because when people look at content, they apply the 80-20 principle, but they get it the wrong way around. People spend 80% of their time creating, and then they either put it on their website and do nothing with it, which is a great shame, and just expect it to magically get distributed through the internet. People are going to stumble across it. Or they might put it on social, maybe once. If we're lucky, they'll send it out to their email, but they won't generally do too much with it. I've got a bold statement, and that is flip it round. You should be spending 20% on creation and 80% on distribution. Create once, make it really valuable, and distribute it forever. Don't let it sit there and collect dust. Repackage and repurpose your content. We touched on this before. Think about listen, watch, read, and download. They're the 4 things. Think of your audience personas. Again, I'm sorry to keep banging on about it, but it is super important. I have ADHD, so I don't like long form, and I'm actually not particularly keen on video. But I do like a guide and an infographic because I'm quite a visual person and a bit of a data nerd. So give me some stats and I'm sold. Brian, on the other hand, I mentioned before, our CEO, I can't get him to read an email that's longer than 2 paragraphs, let alone a blog. But he loves a podcast, I know, because he recommends at least 4 or 5 to me a day. So go out there, do your research, look at YouTube videos, podcasts, what engagement are they getting on the different channels, on the different topics that you want to talk about. That will begin to tell you, okay, where's there an appetite, who are we attracting, where are they going to be, how do they want to consume this content? And that doesn't mean you have to create fresh every time. I gave the example before of a webinar and a podcast. Just squeeze the value out of it. Take that one blog and think, right, how do we take this one blog and turn it into a podcast? That could be as simple as you sitting there summarizing all the points and giving a really short overview. And the call to action is download. It could be, you know, you're doing a video with the author. There's loads and loads you can do to just try and get as many different mediums out of your content as possible and put it out on as many different channels. So what does that actually look like in practice? For those who are using Venture and have the Media Hub, we'll take the webinar example again. You do a webinar, you list it as an event, you promote it loads for people to sign up. There's your lead gen. Great. The webinar is a huge success. It gets loads of sign-ups. People really watch it. Everybody loves it. Happy days. Don't stop there. Go back, add a blog with a recording, and then run that through a transcripting tool. There's loads out there. Please don't sit there and type it out yourself. Get the transcript off it, type up the transcript, edit it, add some subtitles in to make it really easy to digest if people don't want to sit there and watch a whole webinar. They just want to skim read through and pick out the topics that are relevant. Strip the audio off it, and then again, like I said, upload that as a podcast. Take the slides, just like these ones. There's always value in the slides. Take the slides, download them as a PDF, pop that on there as a download. Straight away, you've taken that one event that had one page, one purpose, and you've got 4 or 5. But the important bit is to go back and link them all together. Edit that original event, don't take it down, don't delete it, leave it there, but add a link to the recording and a link to the download the slides, and voila, organic MQLs for leads. Don't forget to tell your SEO team, let them optimize it for long tail keywords, because there will be so much value in that webinar. Think of how many times we've talked. Think how many times I've said SEO, marketing, audience personas, and we're only like 25 minutes in. There'll be so much keyword value in that transcript, in that content. So just let them know. Just like, oh, hey, we did this thing and it got really, really good feedback. There might be something they can do with it. And guess what? Each element of that deserves its own email campaign and its own social promotion. If you're pushing something on social, there is a minimum rule of 3. It needs to go out at least 3 times. If you do a blog, post it at least 3 times. If you only post it once, it's a missed opportunity. So every single bit, post the blog 3 times, post the downloads 3 times, post the podcast, the sound recording 3 times. There's 9 social posts already. If you post 1 a week, that's 9 weeks worth of social content. So I guarantee you with this approach, not only is it better for your audience, but if you went back, you would probably have enough insight to do your full 2023 content calendar. So I actually have some stats on this. So a client of mine, Armstrong Craven, they operate at a super senior C-suite level. They're members of the Recruitment Leaders RL100, Recruitment Leaders 100, which is a closed network community, basically. They did a talk there, I don't know, I think it was the summer last year, maybe, about Project RPO. So moving from a traditional like long contracted RPO model to something that is much shorter and done on a project basis. So they did a closed talk with them. I think it was 45 minutes to an hour. Their marketing manager, Amelia, she did a great job promoting the event, said they were going to be there. And then she sent me the recording and was like, what more can we do with this? So I was like, oh my God, brilliant. Let's get it up on YouTube. We'll optimize it. We'll get it on the site. She mentioned that a few people had asked her for the slides. So I was like, brilliant. Let's jazz up the slides. Let's make them in a nice PDF that's all branded up. Get that as a download. And that is being consistently generating quality client leads every month. The page itself has like a 5% conversion rate, which is really high for a piece of content. It generated, I think, 17 qualified leads, so stuff that's actually been handed over to sales. And yeah, like I say, it's just consistently generating between 3 and 5 leads a month for them. And again, it's that evergreen content. So Amelia does a really good job. She kind of feeds it back into a social plan when she's got a gap, when she thinks, oh, actually, that's not being pushed for a while, or when there's something happening in the industry and she thinks, oh, Project RPO is being talked about again. She pushes it again. So yeah, squeeze maximum value. So a lot of you are probably doing a really, really good job at this already. So you've got your email, you've got your social, you've got your paid. We all know content is king. You're driving all your traffic to your content. You should be linking that back to your services, and then from your services, you're going to get inquiries. And I know a lot of this can feel a bit overwhelming, so I've tried to simplify it for you here. So yeah, driving your traffic with email, social, and paid channels. You've got your content engaging at the different stages of the funnel, either highlighting your services as a solution or pushing towards a conversion, such as registering for an event, a download, things like that. Now that bit most clients do quite well, but they get the email address and then what happens? Nothing. Yep, I can feel the wincing already. She's going to ask about the email data. Yep, I am. So lead nurturing and CRM marketing is the final piece of the puzzle. Recruitment requires a hiring need. So you could be the best marketer in the world, but when the market starts to tighten and recruitment starts to slow down, which is in some sectors happening already, you need to make sure you are top of mind, because at the end of the day, if they're not looking to hire, they're not going to submit an inquiry with you right now. So it's really, really important that we can find out who they are, identify them as an email address, work out what they want to hear from us, and then nurture them so that your brand is constantly top of mind. As soon as that need arises, there's no one else they'd rather call. They're going to come to you straight away. So I'm going to tackle the data elephant in the room. It's usually the mammoth job that most people are putting off because they can't bear the thought of having to unpick the mess that is quite often a lot of databases. So I'm going to hopefully break this down for you and give you some tips to make it slightly less overwhelming and hopefully a lot more manageable.
Great, Steph. I was going to say, I've just seen there's a couple of questions come through. Amy asked the question, how to get your matched audience from social media, and then she put, do you? So I'm guessing, how do you get your matched audience from social media? Might be one that we're going to tackle in a bit or come to the end of it, because there is definitely a couple of different ways, Amy, that can be done, and different paths that can be done. Dan, yes, great stuff. We'll be getting the slides sent out afterwards, and not just the recording, so that will come through to you. And then Amy has also asked, do you have any advice on how to organise our content calendar, or what do you use? I'm using Asana currently. That might be one that we'll pick up towards the back end, but obviously please keep the questions coming through, guys. I think, is there anything you want to tackle there immediately, Steph?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what you mean about the matched audiences. Basically, they're based on a few core things. So all you need to get a matched audience is really just an email address. If you can get first name, last name, amazing. If you can get things like a phone number and a location, that's going to add even more depth to it. But in its fundamental, all you need is an email address, and then you format that into a CSV file usually and import it in that way. If you're asking how you get matched audiences out of social media, so as in if you can build a lookalike audience and then get that data out, I would have to double check with our team, because that's not something I've ever done before. I don't know if it's possible, but I can certainly find out and ask the question for you. Someone asked about tools for content planning. We use Teamwork as our project management tool because it works for us as a business. There's loads and loads. You can use Monday.com, Teamwork, Asana, Notion, good old-fashioned spreadsheet. Google Sheets is never going to do you wrong. You need to find something that is going to give you the level of detail and work for you and anybody else that needs to collaborate with it. So yeah, I think Monday.com is really good. If you're looking at getting started, I think they have a free plan as well. But yeah, in the absence of fancy technology, you can't really go wrong with a good old-fashioned spreadsheet. Okay, so email data, simplified segmentation. Now, I know in an ideal world, we all want to be segmented by industry, by seniority, by location. And if you try to take your whole database and segment it by job type or job title, whether you're a MD or a hiring manager or TA, And you want to do that by location and all those other great sort of demographic data. That's obviously ideal, but to try and do that with a database of often hundreds of thousands is nigh on impossible. So if you have no segmentation whatsoever and you are sending everything to everybody, or worse, you're not doing anything at all, start here. So you want to build 3 lists. You want your high value contacts. So these are your best customers, are the people that are your absolute brand evangelists. They spend with you regularly. So you want to be speaking to them to get more from them, that you want to make sure that you are nurturing them, so you're squeezing every last drop. 2, you want your active prospects. So anything that your sales team, anybody that your sales team is currently prospecting, any of those MQLs that have come in via the website, get them all in this list. Don't go cold on them. Don't go dormant. And then 3 is all those dormant contacts and lapsed clients. They're the people that haven't bought from you in ages. You don't really know who they are. You don't even know if they're still at the company. They're not really engaging with you. Yeah, they're not really engaging with you. Yeah, they're not really engaging with you, so you want to just put them in a list. So the reason we would take this approach is because your high value contacts, you're going to speak to them really frequently. You want to be emailing them even weekly. Your active prospects, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to bombard them. So maybe every couple of weeks, you just want to serve them something really high value. And your dormant contacts, again, you want to be emailing these guys maybe once a month, just as a check-in, just to keep you top of mind. But again, when they start engaging with you, they get moved up. They go up into the active prospects, and the active prospects become clients, and they go into the high value. And that's how you begin to sort of turn these MQLs into SQLs. So you want to think about, what are they struggling with? How are we solving their problems? And you want to drive curiosity and inspire action. That's the purpose of an email. Literally, if it's not interesting, it's not engaging, don't bother. People always overthink their emails. Really don't overthink it. A good email is a picture, 10 words and a button. That's it. When you open an email, if the subject line's good, when you open an email, all you do is you read the title and you go, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Where do I click? That's literally it. So yeah, don't overthink it. People that do like these big newsletters. Now, the big newsletters are great for your dormant clients that you're only emailing once a month, because give them maximum chance to engage with something, and then you begin to learn what they want to hear about. But if you've got high value clients that want to hear from you, don't store all your content up and hit them in one go that says, here's our monthly newsletter. Whatever is in that newsletter, break it out. If it's a really insightful piece from a consultant on the latest trends in your industry, send that out as a separate email, because that's going to get way more engagement than, here's our latest newsletter. And again, if you've got 6 pieces of content in that newsletter, that's 6 individual emails. So you're stressing to get a newsletter out every month and thinking, what the hell am I going to put in it? You've got 6 emails. If you sent one of them out a month, you'd have 6 months worth of content. Honestly, don't overthink it. Break it down, bite-sized chunks. I'm working with a client at the minute on a campaign for mortgage brokers, and they're not currently doing any email marketing at all. They don't have any segmentation. If you ask them what the lists are, they're like, we don't have any. So I just asked them a really simple question. I was like, can you get me a list of all the people in your database related to mortgage brokers? And they were like, let me have a look. So they did just a little search. And they were like, oh yeah, we've got a list of 2,500. I couldn't believe it. So if you've got consultants that are crying out for candidates, I know we're talking about clients, but I'm just using this as an example. You will have thousands of them sat in that database. Now, in this example, for those consultants to go through and phone all 2,500 of them, it's going to take days. But I send out one high value email. In this case, we've actually got a guide about mortgage brokering. We're going to send out that guide. Everybody that engages with it, they go out to the consultants. So you've taken that list of 2,500 that don't want to hear from you or have never heard from you. I'd much rather give them a list of 200 people that have engaged with an email, at least are interested. So again, manageable, bite-sized chunks. It doesn't have to be the biggest, most complex strategy in the world. Just start somewhere, because I promise you, you will get some return on investment from it. People will open it, people will engage with it. And then from there, you can just keep building and building and testing and learning. So final point on this, clear call to actions. Please do not put click here. It's not there. it's not there. It's not in the email. It's somewhere else. A good call to action is do this now. I know it's super basic, but I see it time and time again. To hear more about this blog, click here. Don't click here. You really clear call to actions. Read their case study, download their guide, listen to their podcast, watch the video. Be super clear with what is going to happen when they click that button. So that is kind of on exhausting your internal audiences. Now I'm going to talk about how you can maximize reach and get started with attracting clients not already in your database. So I just want to touch on LinkedIn. So recruiters are all familiar with LinkedIn for candidates, but obviously you can use this for clients as well. So this is an example of audience targeting on LinkedIn for client attraction. So I'm going after senior HR decision makers. So we've refined by location. So they're in the UK. Job seniority, partner, VP, C-suite, owner, director level, and their job function is HR. So that's what you can see here. And then in the little panel on the right hand side, you can see the years of experience. I've put this as a 30-day spend with a maximum of 3K. Just to give you an idea. So that's saying that the audience is 100,000. Now for my next trick, I'm going to triple this audience size with the same budget. So as you can see, the 30-day budget is still 3K, but the audience size is now 340,000. So what I've done here is I expanded the seniority to manager and senior, but I added a years of experience as an insurance policy to prevent any junior or inexperienced HR personnel that have maybe just been promoted and are not quite who we want to go after. So have a play around, mix and match. My recommendations would be seniority, function, years of experience, and if you are going after candidates, skill set. But yeah, they would be my 3 that I would recommend you get started with. And just have a play, like to run some forecasts. It doesn't cost anything to just have a play, build your audience size. Use this forecast to tell you your audience size. Do not get hung up on the conversions and leads. So I've deliberately cropped it off, but underneath here on the right hand side where it says like your average impressions, it will give you like a forecasted results. I have never really, I don't really see any value in it, if I'm being dead honest with you. It doesn't take into account the quality of the ad messaging or the value of what you're sharing. So that is an aggregate, where it gets that data from, it's an aggregate of everything that is running on LinkedIn at any one time. So the good, the bad, and the ugly all contributes to that number. If you've got good content, good messaging, it's high value, you're going to get way better results. In terms of an audience size, I would say, well, LinkedIn officially suggests a minimum of 50K to drive results for any paid campaign. But I would say go broad to allow for testing. That's kind of the key factor. If you take a 50K audience and test 2 ads, that's only 2.5K each. You do the backwards maths of how many people you're going to reach every day, how many people are going to click on the ad, how many people are going to click through and convert. You take 10% of 1% of 1%. Suddenly that number's not very big at all. And we ran this recently with a client. They were going after a super niche audience, so it was around the 65,000 mark, which LinkedIn said was fine. We had 2 ads running. We were just A/B testing 2 ads. We ran it for 4 days. We spent 300 quid and we had 1 lead, and I was like, that's crazy. So we paused it. We went back to the drawing board. I was like, we need to expand this audience. So we took a similar approach to this, where we reduced the I guess level of seniority, but kept the year's experience as an insurance policy, upped it to 200,000 and got it increased the audience up to like the 200K mark, and we got literally 3 leads overnight for like maybe 50 quid more. So it just goes to show, mix and match your audience. If I were you, if you've got 2 or more ads running, I would say 300 to 500K is a good sized audience. You do need to go broad, let the messaging and the ads speak to the people it needs to speak to. One more note on LinkedIn actually. Lookalike audiences, don't get caught out. So people sign up to LinkedIn with their personal emails. LinkedIn cannot match against business emails. It is trying to. You might have seen there, now you can connect to you can verify your place at a business with your work email address. I think that's them trying to realise that people are struggling to match their audiences. So again, like we mentioned way at the beginning, go back and get your candidate data, feed it into your lookalike audience. That's going to give you hiring managers, because all those hiring managers, their personal email addresses are connected to their LinkedIn.
Steph, just a quick one on that before we move on from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Annabelle's asking, question in the chat, how much do you recommend to put into an ad to see results?
Again, it really depends on the value of the content. You could put as much money in, and if you've not got high value content, it's not going to convert. But I would say start with a minimum, absolute minimum of £500 for a 2-week period. So it's 250 quid a week, but 1 week is not long enough for the algorithm to kick in and for it to learn. So put £500 in, let it go over a 2-week period, review it after week 1. That's exactly what we did. We'd spent 300 quid in the first week, so I think they had slightly higher budgets. But again, we reviewed it after week 1, didn't get the results. We didn't just can it straight away. We were like, right, make the audience bigger, run it for another couple of days and see how you go. Take that approach. But yeah, I would say minimum, absolute minimum, £500 for a 2-week sprint.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it, Steph? It's a lot of people say, it's so easy to flush money down the drain, right, with
100%.
paid media, ad spend, and they're quick to dismiss it as a strategy. But a lot of the time, look, it's not the medium itself; it's it's what you're putting into it, right? So, it's only as good as what you put into it.
100%. But yeah, quality over everything else. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that not all campaign types are created equal. So when you first go into LinkedIn, these are the 2 that you want to focus on really. Your website visits and your lead generation. Personally, I wouldn't really bother with the rest of them. If your conversion point is off site, as in is off LinkedIn and on your site, then the purpose of the ad is to drive the traffic. The ad drives the traffic and the landing page converts. Do not be tempted to use the website conversions goal. You want to give the algorithm full visibility. So if people aren't converting on a web page, that's likely to be the web page's fault. Bear with me, see, I'm just going to have to send out a little SOS because my laptop battery has suddenly gone from like 90% to 1%. I can see some feet shuffling around. So yeah, if your conversion point is on your website and not in the platform itself, that could be because the landing page is poor. If it's not converting, it could be the landing page is poor, not that the audience is incorrect or that the ad is bad. So you want to, if you use your website visits method, your KPIs are how many people are clicking on that ad and clicking through to the site. If you want leads in the platform, use the lead generation tool, use the native lead gen forms, let them convert in the app. That way the algorithm gets full visibility. Meg's coming to my rescue now. That way the algorithm gets full visibility and it will, it can feed the system and help you get more. The main reason the website conversion sometimes doesn't work the way we want it to is because of a few things, but it's hugely impacted by cookie acceptance on the website itself, and also whether iOS, so especially if you're on mobile, iOS tracking between applications. You've probably seen the ask app not to track, and let's be honest, we all click no. Nobody ever gets asked if they want to track and says yes. People click no, and therefore that loses the visibility. So the algorithm thinks no one's converting when in fact they are, which means it thinks the ad's performing poorly. So then it starts, it doesn't work. So yeah, if your conversion point is on your website, use the website visits campaign method. If you want if you want leads and you have good content, put it as a download using a native lead gen form, using the lead generation campaign method. But again, high value piece of content. If you're going to cut through the noise, it really, really needs to stand out. So I'm actually not doing too bad for time. final bit is tracking ROI and impact. It's something I get asked about a lot. Now, in the absence of a super slick CRM system that does your lead scoring and it tracks your pipeline, and you're really sophisticated using Salesforce all the way through, and it's all connected with Pardot, and you've got marketing automation, most people just aren't in that situation. They're not there yet. So they default to a manual process. But the biggest mistake that people make is that they wait for a sale to come in, and then they track it back and they go, where did it come from? We need to know where all these sales have come from, blah, blah, blah. And they can't track it all the way back, and they don't know, and the salesperson didn't fill it in, and you've got no chance. Like, you've trying to reverse track every sale that comes through is an impossible job, but you should know what you're generating. So my approach is completely different. We have a slick, well-formatted spreadsheet. Here's an example of one with date and time. Time's only relevant if you're getting a super high volume. Who's it been assigned to? Who did it get farmed out to? What was the name of the lead, the company, the job title, contact info, the source campaign? You know where it's come from. You know whether it came through LinkedIn. You know whether it was flagged off an email campaign that you sent. You know whether it came through the service page on the website, because it'll be in the CMS. You'll have access to all that. We should have access to all the data. Pop it all in a spreadsheet with a notes section and a drop-down status. And we go with disqualified, qualified, prospecting / engaged, meeting booked, proposal. That's it. That's literally it. And then all you have to do is chase up that salesperson and go, hi, I sent you these 5 people. Where are they up to? That way, you know the leads that you're generating, and you can see what revenue came off the back of it. If you didn't generate it, don't get hung up on it. This is the tried and my trusted method. I know it's a little bit old school, and you were probably hoping that I was going to come out with some magic wand, some magic tool that was just going to do it all for you. But this, honestly, I guarantee, follow up on your leads, find out what happened to them. It's your job to generate the leads. But the sales team, if they're not following up on them, it's a waste of time. So you need to be talking to them. How many were qualified? Of the ones that get disqualified, why? Why are they being disqualified? And if they're not listening to you, you need to shout loud. You need to take it all the way up to board level, because I guarantee you no MD CEO is going to sit there and be like, oh no, it's okay. We don't care that the sales team aren't following up on any leads that come through the website. Like, nobody is going to say, no senior person, no business leader is going to sit there and say, no, we don't want to hear about it. So yeah, you have to champion it. You have to bang the drum. And when the sales teams realise that the leads are easier to close and it's a constant drip feed, they get the commission at the end of the day. So they're going to want to work with you. You just need a couple of friendlies on board that are going to work with you and kind of close that loop. And then people get jealous, they start seeing all the action over there, and they go, hang on a minute, I want a piece of that puzzle. And before you'll know it, they'll all be coming to you saying that they want help. So, and that's a great position to be in. And it gets a little bit more complicated, I guess, for existing clients. But again, make a note of the company, track that account, see if it's grown. Are they more engaged after marketing activity, and what opportunities are there? Again, if you get, we talked about those high value contacts. The purpose of emailing them is to alert their account managers. So who's the main point of contact on that account? You need to be telling them that their clients are opening those emails. And if they don't do anything with it, you need to follow up and be like, oh, hi, I sent you this. Did anything ever come to that? Did you have that conversation? Chances are the leader turn around and be like, oh yeah, actually, it turns out they were looking for X, Y, and Z, and I've had a meeting with them and this has happened. Make a note of it. That's all return on investment. That's all contributing to the impact of the work that you're doing. So yeah, there's, unfortunately, I haven't got a magic wand or a magic solution for you, but you need a system that can track deals, stages, and the value of the work won. And in the, like I say, in the absence of a really fancy system that can do it all for you, this is honestly a good way to start. It's the best place to start. And I've got an example of what this looks like in practice. So again, I mentioned them earlier with Armstrong Craven. They produce their Armstrong Craven review twice a year. So for volume 7, I think we're just about to produce volume 9 is launching soon. But yeah, volume 7 as an example. They have quite a long, because they work at a really senior C-suite talent research business. They have a super long run rate on deals, but That campaign generated 160 new MQL, so new leads that were qualified and farmed out to the sales team, basically to nurture and prospect. Of those 160, 78 were prospected. That turned into 8 meetings. Those meetings turned into 2 proposals. Those 2 proposals result in 1 deal, which is a 460% return on investment. And that was purely for me exporting the list. I mean, they do use Pardot, so they do get notifications as to what's happening and when. But again, their commercial manager that looks after it all, I just say to her, I'm like, whatever happened of those, how many have you followed up on? Oh yeah, no, I've been prospecting about 75, 80 of them. Oh, amazing. And then a few weeks later, of those ones you're prospecting, have you had any meetings? Oh yeah, actually I've had 8 meetings booked. Brilliant. And then a follow up again. Oh, of those meetings, how many through a proposal? Oh yeah, we've actually had 2 proposals out. You just have to ask the right questions. Keep banging the drum, keep asking the questions, and try and make life as easy for them as possible to keep track of. So, right, we're going to do this Martin Lewis style. If you don't know who Martin Lewis is, have you been under a rock? He's a money saving expert. I unfortunately am not a money saving expert. I'm a marketing spender. However, I am going to do this quick fire, and I'm going to bust 5 PPC myths in 5 minutes, just try and boost the energy, because I hope you've not all fallen asleep on me. Okay, number 1, paid search doesn't work when the decision-making process is long and or emotional. Not true. Different channels for different stages of the funnel. PPC is for you to be a contender in the running to make the shortlist. So this is a client for 2022, so the year just gone. They had 313 conversions where paid was not a direct source of the conversion, but it did play a part in the funnel. So to see what it's doing, you go to conversions, multi-channel funnels, top conversion paths and analytics. If you're running paid, go and have a look, see what it's doing. It doesn't have to produce direct conversions to be adding value. Next, paid search is best used as a short-term solution. Again, incorrect. You can have an always-on campaign. This is the same client. So this is for 2022. They spent 170k on their PPC over, well, their generic PPC for their core services. This was over a 12-month period, and it was consistently delivering 100+ leads per month with an average cost per lead of 168. Their target cost per lead was 200 quid. So yeah, very, very happy with this performance. The boost in Q4 was because we restructured the account so it would spend more and they could increase their budgets because they were being capped. But yeah, over 1,000 conversions consistently across the year. It doesn't have to be in sprints. You can have it always on, but you need bigger budgets. Don't be tight. 3, if a campaign or ad group isn't converting, you should turn it off. Not necessarily. Again, like I said before, go back, check the multi-channel paths. Is it assisting with conversions? If it is, leave it on. 2, check the quality of the traffic. Look at acquisition, Google Ads, campaigns, keywords in your analytics. You want to look out for a high bounce rate, anything over 70%, or a low time on page. They're indicators of poor quality traffic. Consider switching it off. If it's not generating leads, assisting with conversions, or driving quality traffic, then turn it off. Unless you want it for brand visibility, so things like competitor bidding, to be up there against your competitors, moving into a new space, or a top of mind strategy where you just want to dominate. If that's the case, your KPI is not conversions, your KPI is impressions and cost per impression. So move it into a separate campaign and control that budget. 4, I did say don't be tight. PPC is too expensive. Time for a reality check. If one vacancy to your business is worth 10k, then a 5% cost per lead would be 500 quid. We're not in e-commerce, we're not selling £10 t-shirts, and Google isn't stupid. Do not get distracted by cost per click. Focus on your cost per lead. Always aim for less than 5%, but you need to ask yourself, speak to your sales team, what's your average deal value and how much are you willing to spend for that SQL? That should be your guide as to whether it's expensive or not. Optimize for cost per lead. Don't get too distracted by cost per click. Finally, number 5, using PPC on your brand name is a waste of money when you rank organically. Not true. Here is 4 ways to utilize brand bidding. 1, launch new services, so cross-sell opportunity. If you've just branched out into a new space and you want to tell everybody about it that searches for your brand, put it up at the top, send it to a dedicated landing page. Don't interfere with your homepage. 2, promote a campaign, same methods. you've just launched something, whack it at the top above your brand, head it to a direct campaign landing page. 3, protect against competitor bidding. If you're not bidding on yourself, someone else will. So again, make sure you're bidding on your own brand. And 4, dominate the search engine results page. You want to take up as much of that space and control that narrative and control the messaging as much as you physically can from landing. So yeah, that is 4 ways you can use your PPC.